name is Heather Westlake, and I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Post Falls, Idaho. Today we're going to be making a step card. I got the idea from Adrienne Hughes. Her website is victoriapapershaper.blogspot.com. The first sample I wanted to show you is made with a Free as a Bird stamp set. The second sample is made with the Geared Up Garage stamp set. And the card we're actually going to be making today is this one, and it's made with the Abstract Impressions stamp set. I want to show you what the dimensions are you're going to need for the paper. The base is 4 1/4 by 11 inches. In this sample it's rich raspberry. And I scored at 1/2 inch, 2 inches, 4 inches, and 5.5 inches. I wanted to show you how I did that with our Simply Scored scoring tool. It has these markers that you can place at the appropriate measurements so you know where you need to make the score lines. You just place your cardstock in the upper left-hand corner, take the stylus, and pull down. It makes it so much easier than trying to do it with your Stampin' trimmer or something else. It's very quick and you can do several in a quick amount of time. The second piece that's going to attach to that is also rich raspberry. It is 3 by 5 1/2 inches, and it is also scored at 1/2 inch and at 2 inches. I picked a coordinating color. In this case it was Old Olive to mat those with. The first one is 4 by 5 1/4 inches. The smaller piece is 2 3/4 by 3 1/4 inches. You're also going to need white pieces of cardstock to stamp random images on. In this case, I've already done the stamping for you. This larger piece is 3 3/4 by 5 inches. There's also a smaller piece that is 2 1/2 by 3 inches. Next piece you're going to need is a scrap piece of white cardstock to stamp the saying on. Something close to 2 1/2 inches by 5 inches should work fine for that. And a small scrap of white cardstock to stamp and then cut out an image. 2 by 2 should be plenty big enough. You're also going to need a scrap piece of cardstock. In this example I'm using Pacific Point, and this is to punch out a mat that will be behind this saying. Let's go ahead and get started. We're going to take our base piece and fold it on all of the score lines. Going to make a kind of a C looking thing. The largest Old Olive mat will go here on the inside. And then the largest white piece that you already stamped the flowers on goes on next. And the only decision to make here is if you want this to be the top or if you want this to be the top. I think I'm going to go with this other side to be the top for me. Let's go ahead and attach our other stamped pieces. The other piece that was scored, we're going to go ahead and fold it on those score lines as well. And this time the Old Olive small piece actually goes on the outside of it instead of on the inside. And again, the piece that's already been stamped on, and you might take a peek to see which way you're going to want this to go. If you want it to go this way or this to be at the top, I think I'm going to go with this one. This nail adhesive isn't participating today very well. I'm going to go ahead and put that stamped image right in the center of that. For the saying, we're going to go ahead and use a punch to punch out the words. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to go ahead and hold the punch in my right hand and the image that I want to punch out in my left. You always want to use a punch upside down so you can see the image and center it right in the center of whatever your cutout is. And once you get it set, go ahead and give it a squeeze, and that should punch that image out. For the mat, you can do several things. You can either cut it in half this way or cut it in half lengthways to use it as a mat. I'm going to go with lengthways. It doesn't have to be perfectly in the center, just sort of up the center is great. Then go ahead and put just a little bit of adhesive there on the inside. Then take your words and line it up there and press to attach, and then turn it over and do the same thing with the other half. Then this piece, you can decide if you want to move it up or down or right in the center. I think I'm going to go right in the center this time. So let's go back to our main base piece. What you're going to want to do is put an adhesive right here along this smallest folded piece. It's a 1/2 inch there. So I think I'm going to go ahead and use the tear and tape adhesive this time, just so it holds that nice and solid. I like this adhesive. It's strong, but yet you don't have to use scissors and get them all gummy. You can just tear it. And then rip off the piece that's white. Then from the bottom edge of the card, go up 1, 2 scored lines and fold that over. And then set it flat and press it down firmly for the adhesive to stick to the back. And then fold it down. That'll give you that box, that little box that'll pop up. I love this card for that reason. It's interactive, and you can, the person who gets it can pop it up, but it does fold flat to go in the mail still, which I like a lot. So for this other piece to go on top, the easiest thing to do is put the adhesive where you know something is going to attach. Instead of guessing on the inside of this piece, I'm just going to put the adhesive here sort of towards the middle because I know it has to attach there. Then I'm going to turn this piece over, and down in the bottom corners of this I'm just going to put some tear and tape because I know it has to attach there as well. Make sure it's pressed down firmly to pull off the coating. I'm just going to lay this down flat, and again knowing that this is going to be the bottom edge, when I press it down it's going to be the next line up. So I'm just going to lay this nice and flat, but try to center it from left to right. And then press down firmly where both of those adhesives were, and that should make that box part work correctly. You can see that. Now we just have this top portion to glue down, and again we're going to need that 1/2 inch piece on the score line. We're right on the other side of that. We're going to put another piece of tear and tape. This time we're going to fold the whole thing down flat, but just fold that 1/2 inch piece under. And again, press firmly so that that sticks. And there we go. We just need to add our little flower that we cut out ahead of time. I'm going to use a mini glue dot for that. The trick about mini glue dots is you don't even have to touch them. You just touch the thing that you want to stick, touch it to the glue dot, and it'll pull it off, and just stick it wherever you want to. And that way you don't have to get it stuck to your fingers and try to have to get it off. So really quickly, I wanted to show you a trick on how to use the abstract impression stamp set. Well, one more thing, you can either leave your card like this and not have a place to write, or you could take one extra piece of white cardstock, 4 inches by 5 1/4, and put it on the back so you have a place to write a greeting or whatever you would like. So the abstract impression stamp set is actually a 2-step stamp set. In other words, there's images you can stamp over the top of each other to make the stamped image look more 3-dimensional. This large flower actually has 3 pieces that you can use to try to help it look more dimensional. So what I did on the actual pieces where the rubber actually goes, the photopolymer goes, I actually took a thin Sharpie and I wrote top at the top of those 3 images, just so I could keep track of where the top is supposed to go, and that helps me align those when I go to stamp them. So really quick, I wanted to show you how to do that with the rich raspberry ink and those 3 images. Another trick I did was I took the actual stamp, and before I stuck it on the block, I actually drew on that same top side with a black Sharpie, a fat one, so I could see it really well. That way I know when I go to use these where the top is, and I can align them all the same way. I always stamp with that black line at the top. And I always set them out in the order that I need them to be so I don't get ahead of myself and too confused. So I'm going to start with the back one first, and I'm actually going to ink it up well, and then stamp it off twice, and then stamp it here on the center. Then I'm going to take the middle layer, and I'm going to ink it up well again, stamp it off once, and go over the top. And again, I have that black mark at the top, so I know where the top is. Then I'm going to take the last one. This one, after I ink it up well, I'm not going to stamp it off. I'm going to go directly to my image and stamp it right over the top. And there you have a more 3-dimensional looking flower by using that. So in this sample, I actually used just the one color, stamping off to get the lighter images for the bottom layers. You can also use 2 different colors. You could use a lighter image for the first stamp layers that you did, and then when you get to the more detailed one, you could use a darker color over the top. So just some different ideas for that. Thank you for joining me today. If you want to go to my website, I have Stampin' Up! Products for sale there. And that address is heathersfuninstamps.stampinup.net. Thank you so much for joining me today.